We have talked about adding folders and we've talked about adding assignments. Let's now talk about the last option, which is adding assessments. Basically, all an assessment is a self-grading test or quiz that you want to give your students, which could be a very nice feature. Just like with the assignment or with the folder, I want to highlight the class I want it added to. And if I wanted to, I can specify the folder or subfolder where I want that to go. So I have it highlighted here. I'm going to go to the drop down where it says Actions and then Add an Assessment. I'm going to give that assessment a name. So this should look pretty familiar. If you watch the assignment video, then these steps will look pretty familiar. So I'll kind of go through it. I'll name this sample test. You can give instructions. You can specify a due date for the test or quiz. And you can also specify a due time. I'll say 4 p.m. August 7th. Evaluation type. You can actually, if you wanted to, you could assign this test for homework, or if you wanted it to be in class, you choose either test or quiz here. Again, you have your allow taking late. By default, that's yes. So if you would not allow this after August 7th at 4 p.m., that test would basically shut down and students would not be able to take it if I had this selected as no, or I can leave it as yes. If I leave it as yes, students can take it after August 7th at 4 p.m. There will be a timestamp notifying me when they took the test, and I'd be able to see right away if they took it late or they didn't take it late. So you can kind of follow your late policy there. Again, release grades, do you want that to happen immediately on a date? That's up to you. The visibility options, do you want it to become visible on a certain date or right away? I'm just going to leave this default and allow that to show. So I have my folder in my class here, so I'm going to save. Now let's look at it. I have it here under sample test. And right now I need to actually create the assessment or create the quiz or test. So I'm going to say create assessment. And let's walk through some of these settings here so I can give you some further explanation. Attempts allowed, a lot of these will be kind of self-explanatory. And it's based on your preference, what you want. You have the option, you can allow your students to take this test or quiz more than once if you want to. And basically, you have unlimited numbers if you want to. So I'm going to leave it at default. I'm just going to say students can only take it one time. Shuffle the order of the questions for each attempt. Basically, if this this matters if you have more than one attempt. If you wanted the questions to change order, then you would leave this on. If you didn't, you would turn this off. Allow student to revisit previously answered questions. So if you want them to be able to go back in the test or not, again, your preference. Allow students to skip questions without answering, again, your preference. For this option, use Safe Exam Browser for taking assessment. This is referring to a program that we don't have, so you want to make sure that you leave this off. The feedback settings, again, this is more kind of options for you here. Do you want students to, do you want to let students know after taking each question if they got it right or wrong? If you want them to know that, click that on. If you choose to turn that on, you may want to not allow students to revisit previously answered questions. So, options for you. Provide scoring and feedback after completion of each attempt, so that would be applicable if you are allowing more than one attempt here. Under general feedback, this would be a message that you want your students to see after they complete the test. So I can give directions here. I can say okay. Now let's go into making our questions here. So that's going to be under add question, and you're just going to do this one at a time here. You have 5 different options: multiple choice, true, false, yes, no, completion, fill in the blank, and essay and free response. So quite a few options. Let's start with multiple choice, and we'll go through. eBackPack gives each question a default value of 1, but you can change that if you want. You can also give extra credit to certain assignments, so again, all things for you to think about and options for you. I have my question prompt here, so let's have a Gettysburg question. Okay. I have the option, by default, it's going to shuffle my suggested answers here, which I can turn that on or off if I wanted to. And you might come across a multiple choice question where more than one answer is correct, and you can allow that if you want. In this case, there's only one answer to this question, so I'm going to leave that off. Let's put it in our answers here. So we have Mead, we have Lee, Grant. Now, by default, it gives me 3 answers. I can add a 4th or 5th or 6th choice if I wanted to. And notice how each one of these is a red X, and whichever one is correct, I'm going to put a green check mark here. Another important thing too, and this could be useful, is if you have a chance, kind of take a look at this edit bar here for each one. You can have with each answer, if you wanted to have a picture, so I can actually, if I wanted a picture of Meade and a picture of Lee and a picture of Grant and Stewart here, I can add that to each option if I wanted to, just as an example. So that could be a useful option if you want kind of a more visual type of test. You can also add web links if you want them to leave and view a web link. These here, I'm not going to get too involved with the subscripts and the superscript, but basically this is for all of you math teachers and science teachers here that might want to put in equations and things like that for students to solve. So again, a lot of options here, and I'll just allow you to kind of on your own if you want to explore any of that, but some useful stuff. Okay, if I wanted to give a specific instruction after they take this particular answer, I could give that here. If not, I'm just going to leave that blank and I'm going to click on Save. So there's my question 1. I'm going to add my question 2. Let's make question 2 a true false. Again, I have my point value, default 1, which I like. Let's see here. Again, I have true, false, and of course that is false. And I'm going to save. I'm not going to show you yes, no. You can probably imagine that works much like true, false here. Let's take a look at completion, fill in the blank here. Now let's look at fill in the blank questions. Under the prompt, this is where you'd put your fill in the blank question. Notice I used the Control U option to make these underlines where I want my students to fill in the blanks. Because I have 2 blanks, I'm going to set my point value at 2, one for each blank. Below is where you put your possible answers. Now it doesn't matter the order of the answers. You can switch them around whatever way you like. So I'll put my first answer, which is July 1st, 1863. Now, when a student types in this answer, they may fail to capitalize July, or they may leave out the comma or put the comma in the wrong place. It's my decision if I want to take off a point for that. If I don't want to penalize for punctuation or capitalization, if I go to options, I can just make sure that eBackPack will ignore case in the answers and ignore punctuation in the answers. But again, that is totally up to you. Now I may have a student that rather than typing out July 1st, 1863, maybe they put it in this way. So you really want to think about how your students are going to answer. And if you want them to answer a specific way, you can also put that in the directions. Now let's do my second blank, which is July 3rd, 1863. And so on. I can make my other variations by going to the options, make sure that it ignores the case, and it also ignores punctuation too as well. And then save. The last type of question that we'll look at will be the essay or free response question. This is the only one that is not self-grading. So if you choose this option, you will actually have to manually grade these yourself. eBackPack cannot do that for you. So I'm going to maybe assign this question a few more points, maybe 4 points or 5 points. And then maybe my question prompt is so try to choose a more open-ended question that's less black and white, more up to interpretation. And then I can save it. And basically when your students take the quiz and they come in that question, they'll have a field where they can type in their answer. When you're all done with your questions, so let's say this is a 4-question test, I'm just going to click done. And when I want my students to be able to take this test, I want to make sure that where it says taking assessment allowed, I'm going to click that to yes. And now my students are able to take the assessment.